Hey everyone, welcome to Journey into Hopefulness. I hope everyone had a beautiful September weekend this past weekend, and I hope that many of you were able to celebrate Grandparents' Day, which happened yesterday, Sunday, September 13th, and is a holiday that I don't think a lot of people celebrate. I know that I don't recall celebrating it or even recognizing it when I was a kid. And it's not something that I really recognized with my own parents, with Anna. And so I got to reading about it, and it actually was an idea, from what I've read, it was an idea from a 9-year-old boy in 1969. He wrote a letter proposing that there be a day to commemorate grandparents, and he sent that letter to Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon's secretary sent a letter back explaining to the boy what a wonderful idea it was. However, there has to be a process in order to get a national holiday. Well, through the next 9 years, there were certain people who worked tirelessly to make this happen. And on August 3rd of 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed the proclamation making Grandparents' Day a national holiday. And it is celebrated the first Sunday after Labor Day every year. And part of the proclamation states that the day's purpose is to honor grandparents, to give grandparents an opportunity to show love for their children's children, and to help children become aware of strength, information, and guidance that older people can offer. Now, I know that many of you watching this video today may never have known your grandparents, or you may never have had quality time with your grandparents. But if you are one of the fortunate ones who was able to grow up knowing your grandparents and who was able to spend quality time with your grandparents, then you'll know exactly what I mean when I say that grandparents are priceless. I am one of those fortunate ones. I was not only blessed with knowing my maternal grandparents and my paternal grandparents, but also my paternal great-grandparents. It wasn't until my mom and dad no longer had Anna to share their lives with that really made me start reflecting on my grandparents and my memories of them and how they influenced my life, how they were a source of me knowing who I was and where I came from. As a child, there were certain family functions, there were traditions, there were certain little things that my grandparents did that made me feel very special. I felt loved and wanted. Like, for instance, with my paternal grandparents, one of the memories that I have was of them bringing fried chicken over on Saturday night from this place called the Hen House. I don't recall them doing this very often. I don't recall them visiting very often. Most of the time we would go to visit them. So it could be that the reason that that memory is so fond for me is because they did come to visit us, and it just happened to be the fried chicken that I remember specifically about that visit. Another memory that I have is of Thanksgiving every year. Every year for Thanksgiving, my family would go to my grandmother and my grandfather's house, very small house, and we would cram into this house with all of my uncles and aunts and my cousins. And I can remember as soon as I went in the front door, it was so hot that you had to immediately get out of your coat. You would just immediately start sweating. But it was a lot of the heat from my grandmother cooking this wonderful Thanksgiving dinner and the smell of the bread. My paternal grandmother was an awesome bread baker, and everybody was so fond of her bread. And I can still smell it and taste it and miss it. You know, a lot of times when grandparents die, a lot of their secrets die with them. And I think that my grandmother's recipe and just her special touch in making that bread died with her. Another memory that I have from my paternal grandparents is every year for Christmas Eve, we went to their house, into that same small hot house, crammed in there with my aunts and uncles and cousins. And I remembered the expectation of receiving this huge gift every year. It was like an overstuffed pillow, just wrapped up in one big sheet of wrapping paper. And I remember them sitting that gift on my lap, and when I unwrapped it, things just sort of tumbling out of it. And I don't remember exactly what it was that tumbled out of that gift, but what I do remember are the Christmas pajamas that we got every year, which was part of that gift. And it was a very special thing that I associate with my grandparents, with my my great grandmother and my grandmother on my dad's side. It's just it is just a wonderful feeling. Some of the things that I remember about my maternal grandparents, one thing especially were summer sleepovers at my grandmother and grandfather's house. And usually these sleepovers were spent with my cousin Sherry. And I can remember just the feeling and the sights and the sounds, because my grandparents lived in town. I lived out in the country. And so, especially in the evening when we went to bed, you know, I wasn't used to the sounds of the traffic. And, you know, they lived right on the main road that went through town. And so you had the sounds of the traffic, you had the headlights, and you had the street lights coming in the window. And just as a very small girl, this was thrilling for me. It was something that I didn't know, and so that's something that I associate with them. And every Saturday morning, my mom would take me and my brothers to visit them. And I can remember the Saturday mornings that we didn't get to go, how disappointed I was. And it was a place that we would go to on Saturday mornings that you would get special treats that you didn't get at home. I have a fond memory of Little Debbie's Star Crunches. If you've never had a Star Crunch, they are so good. It's like a chocolatey Rice Krispie caramel cookie type thing. They were so good. And having that with a Coke, because Coke was something that, you know, didn't get a lot of when we were at home. So it was a very special thing to go to my grandparents and get these special treats. And, during the sleepovers, my grandmother would teach us how to play cribbage. I've never played cribbage since. I don't even remember how to play it, but I associate that game with my grandmother. And my grandmother was a very avid crocheter, and she crocheted Afghans for everybody in my family. Just wonderful memories of her sitting there every night and working on her crocheting. And my grandfather loved to read. And when he was done his books on Saturday morning, you know, he would hand me the books that he had finished reading. A lot of times they were the Reader's Digest condensed books, where you would get like 3 or 4 different books in one. And also the Reader's Digest magazines. So I have very fond, when I see a Reader's Digest or I come across one of those Reader's Digest condensed books. Also, one of the things that I remember sharing with my maternal grandparents were summer picnics. This was a time usually when all of my aunts and uncles and my grandparents and cousins from my maternal side would come on Sundays to where I lived. And we would have a big cookout, and just the memories of playing badminton with my cousins and the laughter. And sometimes we would have these summer picnics and my grandmother and grandfather weren't able to be there. They may have gone out of town to visit visit another aunt or uncle who lived out of town, and the picnics just didn't feel the same without them there. Now, after 50 some years, some of the finer details of my memories may be off just a little bit, but I think that the common theme within my memories are pretty much the same and remain pretty much stable over the years. And those themes contained in all of my memories are love, family, closeness, and belonging. It's not the fried chicken. It's not that hot little cramped house or the oversized, overstuffed Christmas gift that I received. It's not the games that were taught to me or the books that were handed down to me. It's none of the material things within my memories that evoke that special feeling. It's the feeling of my grandparents wanted to share their lives with me, and they wanted me to share my life with them. That is so priceless. So then, when you think about our children who have been alienated from their families, what does it do to their sense of self and their sense of belonging to not be allowed to share in their grandparents' lives? Anna was 11 the last time that she spent any time with my mom and dad. She's 20 now. For almost half of her life, she has been unable to make any of those fond memories with her grandparents. And I often wonder if she will even remember anything of those first 11 years of her life and any of her time spent with her Grammy and Pappy. Things like the long trips that we had to take to go visit them. We lived far away, and that anticipation, that feeling of anticipation that she and I would feel when we would go to visit. I often wonder if she'll remember the feeling of being in her grandparents' house and having her cousins come to visit and the sleepovers that they would have. I wonder if she has any memories of her great grandmother. She was one of the fortunate ones who did have a great grandparent that she was able to know. Will she remember the feeling of baking cookies with Grammy, or going to see the trains with Pappy, or the walks that Grammy and I and she took to the park? Will she remember the excitement of going to Candyland, this little place called the Fruit Bowl where they live, and it was a little produce store, but they had a big area of nothing but loose candy, and you could go around and buy candy by the pound. And Anna used to love this, going in and being able to pick out all the different candies, and that was something that she associated with her Grammy and Pappy. And I often wonder, will she have that same feeling? Will she have that memory of how excited she used to get? And I also wonder, will she remember that 7-year-old self who asked her Grammy, when you die, can I have your Barbie collection? My mom has quite a few Barbies still in the box, and I believe that Grammy would want you to know, Anna, that her answer remains the same today as it did back then. Yes, those Barbies are yours. If you are one of the fortunate ones like me who was blessed with knowing your grandparents, spending quality time with them, I would love to hear your stories. I would love to hear the richness that your grandparents added to your life. Comment and let me know so I can share some of these stories. There is one grandparent a grandmother in particular that I would like to mention during this video, and her name is Elaine Cobb. Elaine has not seen her grandchild for quite some time, and she has taken all of the pain and her sadness and channeled that into trying to create change for parents and grandparents who have been alienated from their children. And I would like to refer you to her website. It is Family Access Fighting for Children's Rights, and I will I'll try to add a link to her website. Again, it's Family Access Fighting for Children's Rights. Her name is Elaine Cobb. You can find her on Facebook. She has grown her website over the past several years into a tremendous source of information concerning alienation itself, the law behind alienation, reunification therapy, therapy in general. She has live seminars with some of the top experts in the world on alienation. All of these are free of charge. She is also organizing a large seminar for parental alienation. And so if you are someone who is looking for more information, I highly recommend visiting her website. Like I said, there is just a wealth of information there. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. Remember, always, always, always live for now. There is always hope. As long as we are alive, there is always hope that we will reunite with our children, that our parents will one day share their lives with their grandchildren. So never give up hope. Until next time, everyone, take care.